my friend, it's Pat Sloan here. So today is Pillow Talk Day on our calendar. So I need to have another blue pillow cover for my living room. Remember I talked about that the other day? Especially I need to like chuck out that one odd pillow that's making me crazy, and I know I could fix it or something. Maybe I'll be inspired and do that. But I have this other pillow that's totally fine. I love this pillow form, and so I need a new cover for it. So today I'm going to show you two options. You can tell me which one you think, because it is going to live in the same room with the shark. And so I'm thinking a nautical or navy. And so I have two. One I showed you the other day. This is the fabric I showed you the other day for the critter quilt. And there is plenty of it to do a pillow and then still have some for the critter quilt. So here would be how it looks, sort of wrapped, just sort of audition it. I will quilt it. I will just quilt it. And it would be a pillow that would just have the nautical theme. And I wouldn't do anything else. I probably would go ahead and make the back of it the same fabric, just make it all the same fabric. And that would be cute. I think that would be really cute. But then I also have a navy fabric that's quite old. This was quite a long time ago from Joel Dewberry, called Modern Meadow from Free Spirit. It was a long time ago. I used it in a quilt, but I've always loved it, so I've kept this scrap, and this is how that looks. And I think it actually is kind of a summery flower, like a summery blue flower, and it's dark navy, which I think would go really well with the shark and the other navy and the other pillow that's out in the living room right now. So that is my other option. So which one do you like? In some ways I'm leaning to this because I can use it up. Also, it's a little bit more versatile than the nautical, so if I did it in that one, I might be able to use it with something else. This is a pillow that I did a chevron, so you use that special ruler to do the chevrons. Have you done that? Have you done chevrons? Is that the right word? It's like a rag. You have a channel and then you cut the fabrics, and so they're raw, and you wash it and it gets kind of fluffy. What is that called? I'm using the wrong word. Tell me in the comments. By the time I read the comments, I'm going to go, oh yeah, that's what it's called, but I don't remember right now. We're going to talk about the critter quilts at the end, because I have some questions that people have asked that I want to get to those questions today. And there are other questions that I've accumulated. When you leave me a question at YouTube, I try to answer the sort of really immediate ones. The ones where like, where's the pattern for this and stuff like that. Things that are a bit longer explanation, I kind of save them up to do them here so that everybody benefits from the answer. And that's where we are today. So I have from Kim, these are all from YouTube questions. From Kim, she loved my spooky castle, the castle that I did, and so that's very sweet. Thank you. That was so much fun. But she was looking for a tutorial, not having to do with that, a tutorial on how to do applique. Basically, she saw the glasses on the adorable gnome, the gnome that I got, the Pat gnome, Auntie Pat. So she wanted to know how do you basically applique the glasses on. So guess what? I have an entire book, Kim, and everybody else who wants to learn to applique. I have written this book, Teach Me to Applique, and it has all of my tips in it. I tell you everything from stitching, alternate things you can do, threads, how to walk through the process of applique. So I will link you to my book, but I also wanted to show you a couple of examples here. The one that was sent as a gift was done with a tiny little zigzag. I'm just going to hold that up there. Tiny little zigzag. And so you can see it here. And when you zigzag like that, you want to keep it a little bit open, and you want to stay all on the shape. You don't want to fall off the shape, because otherwise you're going to have little red, marks, like a feather, like all the way around. You want to keep all on the shape when you do a zigzag. Now, there are other ways. I generally use a blanket stitch. That's my go-to. And so the blanket stitch, you can see on the dots. See on the dots, on the boat, and I'm using matching thread color. On the red, it's red, blue on the dots, blue on the other parts of the boat shape. Because you use matching thread color, it blends into the applique and is not a feature. You can make it a feature, but it is, I like to blend it. This project is from my book, Celebrate the Seasons. Yeah, I got this out and I thought, oh, I should hang this up somewhere. I should hang that up. And the other thing you can do, which is on my Teach Me to Quilt book, my beginner book has the very basics of this as well. And there I use the straight stitch. So you can see it really well on the white. I think you can, because it's not like the gray there. It's on the gray too, but it's a pattern kind of makes it blend in. But on the white, you can see the straight stitch. And once again, you want to stay just on the applique shape with the straight stitch. And so my book again for learning to applique is this one. So you want to pick that up, and it's full of patterns too. Lots of great patterns where you could practice making projects. So there you go. What else do I have here on the questions? There's a lot of people, so I didn't write all your names down, but a whole group of people have talked about, do I pre-cut an entire quilt before I start? No, I never do that. I never pre-cut an entire quilt before I start. I will always make one of the blocks first, and usually I will cut a little bit, sew a little bit, cut a little bit, sew a little bit. But recently, when I've been doing things that are in super repeat, like they're like the fruitcake blocks here, which are a simple block, nothing I can get get disorganized with. I can keep them very organized, and that I have done a pre-cut after I made a block. So I made a block first, tested out whether I thought it was something I wanted to pre-cut everything, and then decided I would go ahead. So that is all now in mode. But I highly recommend you always make one block, because you may make a mistake. You may misread a direction, and you don't want to have cut everything a half an inch too short because you misread a size. It's very easy, particularly when you're working with a pattern where the size, there might be a size that's cut at a 1/4 instead of a 1/2, or 3/4 instead of a 1/2. Where if you are thinking 1/2, because that's kind of like a baseline that we usually do, half numbers, 4.5, 5.5, 6.5. But if all of a sudden you've got 4 1/4, or your brain sometimes cuts the wrong size. And you don't want to have cut out your entire project and have made things too small. People talk about that all the time in the group, that they have done it. So that is my answer to the pre-cutting. Joan wanted to know, how do I prepare my quilts to put the binding on? Do I lay them on the floor and put them together? So I assume you mean for quilting them rather than binding them. I think you mean, how do I put the 3 layers together? Well, first of all, I send a lot of them to the long armor now. So I just send the top and the back, and they have the batting, and then it comes back and it's quilted. But if I'm doing it at home, I work on a table. I don't work on the floor. I have never worked on the floor. I don't enjoy working on the floor, so I work on a table. And then I would use pins or spray-based the pieces. So that is the method I use. Let's see. From D asked, when you do your bindings, do you always make it 1.5 inches? Do I always cut 1.5 inch wide binding and sew it to the front? She says, I'm starting to do that and really like the look of it. Thanks. Yes, and yes. I have always done 1.5 inch binding. Here's my binding basket. So you can see, here's one right here, where you can just see it. I've cut it 1.5, and then I fold over, just eyeballing a 1/4 inch, and this is how I work with it. And I have done this since I started quilting. I don't know why, but this is how I started. Of course, I know about double binding where it's double that size. I know about that, but for some reason, way early on, I was introduced to doing it this way, and I like it. It's not as bulky to work with, particularly when you sew it all on the machine like I do. So I'm sewing on the back, pulling it to the front, and then binding it by putting it down that way. So it is a little less bulk that you're dealing with, and I just find that's easier for the machine work. Let's see. Dawn says, Dawn, okay, let's see. Okay, I'll come back to that one. Deborah Jo asks for applique, freezer paper versus heat and bond. All right, those are two entirely different ways of appliquing. Freezer paper versus heat and bond means prepping your shapes. That's what she's asking. Do I want to prep with freezer paper or do I want to prep with heat and bond, which is a fusible? And they're very different. They act very different. Their purpose is very different. It would be like saying to me machine quilting versus hand quilting. I mean, we all know the differences, but the process is different, and the experience of doing it is different. So heat and bond is what I use 99.9999999% of the time. Otherwise, I'm hand appliquing. I am not a freezer paper prep person at all. But when you're using this, that's what's talking about in my book. So it's in here. You are drawing the shape. You are fusing it. Let me just get that basic picture. Here we go. So you're drawing the shapes. You're then cutting them out, and I cut the centers out so they're nice and soft. Then you're peeling the paper off, and then you're fusing it to not you're pulling the paper off. So you're fusing it, and then you pull the paper off afterwards, after your shapes are cut and ready. So it is a process. Now, if you are using freezer paper for your shapes, this is a method where you are prepping shapes in advance around something, freezer paper, so that you can usually hand applique them, but sometimes they will be machine applique. Then you would have to remove the freezer paper either before you applique or after you applique. So it is a different method, but a lot of times this is used for handwork. People will do this for handwork. So that is my take on that. I use freezer paper for tracing things that are not, it's for just other kind of projects, not for applique. It's kind of not my gig. So let's see. So Holly says she has a New Year's resolution. I told you some of these have been around. I've had them a while before I got here. Sorry. Her New Year's resolution was to not buy any new fabric. Her exception will be purchase yardages of background fabrics. And so she said, how do I pick, what would be my top 3 or 4 plain white or plain black? All right, well, first, I never use plain white and plain black. They're just not interesting to me at all. I will use white with a pattern, black with a pattern. I often will use my own fabric lines, such as my Promise Me. Here is my white fabric from Promise Me, which has a little bit of a pattern on it. It has a little like dots and flowers. And then the same for the black, my Promise Me in black, which I have one that's got a little bit of a white tone and a little bit of a gold tone. So there's 2 options for you. So those are my fabric line. And then the other day I showed you a bunch of different lights. And those are all, there's a gray, wait a second, a bunch of different lights that are super interesting. They give you a little bit of something for your background. Either these 3 that have like dots, or, okay, I gotta put this down. That's not working for me to hold it. Hold on, okay, hold on. Let me just put this here and scroll in a second. Okay, we're doing everything here on one side of the table, so you get what you get. Let me just move that so it's not there. So I've got dots with like some multicolors, like this is like a little bit more scattery aqua in there. This is the red, white, and blue. And then here's one that has a pattern. So it's a little bit more pattern than my Promise Me. So there's my Promise Me on top of that. So a little bit more pattern. And then I showed you some gray. This one that has the speckles. Here's, I've ordered some of this one to use in a beautiful, this is called From Beautiful Day. I have a link to all these in the description box. That has a little bit of a light stone color. I really like that. And then the blossoms, some other gray, shades of gray. So there are things that I would use. Whoops, I'm trying to get around the basket there. I would highly recommend expanding yourself out just a little bit from solids, unless you're looking at it like from a budget standpoint, because solids are less expensive. So, you know, that might be something that's you need to look at. So solids are going to be less expensive. So anyway, that is where I am with the questions. Oh no, wait, there's one more. I had skipped around. Dawn wanted to know, when we did the Harrisonburg quilts and we had, Wendy's was really scrappy, as is the original Harrisonburg quilt at the Virginia Quilt Museum. The antique is also very scrappy. And she says, what's a good way to collect those fabrics for a scrappy quilt? She's only been quilting 2 years, so she doesn't really have a large variety. So this is a really good question, because it takes a little bit of time to build your own things up. One thing you can do, and people leave comments in the comment section here at the video for Dawn, but you can trade with friends. Find friends, join a local guild, and trade with friends. Tell them what the project you're doing. I highly recommend you have a project in mind and the colorway you want. I want to do blue scraps. I want to do red scraps. I want to do autumn scraps, autumn colors, golds, browns, autumn greens, so that you have a focus, because you don't want to be getting things all over the spectrum and they don't go together for you, however you like to see things go together. So know what you're going to be making and figure out what those colors are, and then start seeing if you can trade with friends, or if they might have scraps they would like to donate to your project, give you for your project. Sometimes you can buy scrap bags at quilt shops, so you can look through them and see what the colors are. And you can also sometimes find those like on Etsy or eBay, and of course you can't see them in person, so you do have to go into that with a grain of salt. Just go in with your eyes open, that okay, I'm going to try it and see if it's kind of thing that I want. Don't go buy 20 of them, buy one and decide if that really is a way for you to expand. You can also go to thrift stores. You might find things that are in your budget at thrift stores. That's another avenue. So I'm sure there's some others that I'm not remembering, so just leave comments. All right, this is going on. We're probably not going to get to critters today. I'll end up talking about them. I had today also was UFO. I want you to pick a UFO to work on this week. I am going to put binding on my March quilt. So hey, this is July, so it'll be the end. So by the end of July, before the end of July, I want to have my March block a day. I want to have the March block a day done. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? I have the binding. So let me just show you. Did I go too fast? Look. I had so much fun with this. I would do this again. I would do this with different colors. Like this is a very pink quilt. Oh, the backing is not pink. I will show you again. I'll show you the quilting and stuff. Then I'll hang it up one day here soon. Oh, after I get the binding on. So I have my basket of binding, and this is what I'm going to use for that quilt. And I'm also thinking part of my challenge is going to be going in here and documenting what these all go to, so that I know, instead of opening this up every time and going I don't know what this is for. Was this extra that I used? Was it I'm not used it yet? I know this is the Tulip Pink Butterfly. What is this for? So that is my other goal that I'm going to have for myself. Got some stuff in the mail. Let me show you this things I got in the mail. Let's see, this one. Okay, this one is from Mary Alice in Arizona. Look at this sweet card. It just made me smile. It just felt like you get a card when you think, oh, that person gets me. They really get me. That's the feeling I got from this. And she sent me a yummy Starbucks card. Thank you. And some Southwest fabric. Look how cute this is. Look. Look, look, look. Ah, I love it. And I love that it's so subtle. You don't really see the sugar skulls in there unless you're kind of really looking. I think that's so cool. And then I also got a Christmas in July. The box, I have to show you the edge of the box here. So this is what Mr. Greg brought in from the mail. I'm like, I got a Christmas present? Did it get lost? I wasn't thinking Christmas in July. And so she sent, this is Sherry from Michigan. See, a Christmas card. And she sent me this sweetest little heart. Look how sweet that is. And then it's aqua on the back. Look how sweet. And then I didn't open them yet, so we're going to open them. Two things. One is in fabric and one is in paper. And so I will, let's see, we'll just put them here and open them. Polka dot, red polka dot bow. I'm keeping that. I'm keeping that. That's cute. And the Christmas fabric. How fun is this? Now, she did tell me a little bit about what's in here in the note, but I didn't open it. So this is very cool. So she told me, she sent me some really cool summer sausage with dried cherries. Cherry, this is, oh, that's so good. That looks so good. And then the other one is in Christmas fabric. So of course I have to keep the Christmas fabric. And she sent me some yummy bars. Look at those. Very, very good. Ah, the dark chocolate. That sounds super good. All right, my friend. I got through all of the questions and the things on the calendar today. So I feel good. We did not get to the critters. I have 9 blocks of fruitcake up there, and the next section of critters I will show you tomorrow on tomorrow's video. So I love you. Mwah. Thank you for being here in the Sloan Zone and for sending me questions. I'll see you online.